Welcome back to the channel. Today we are replacing the suspension on all four corners of the wife's 2015 Subaru Outback. We've got nearly 200,000 miles on this Outback. Primarily was driving from Fargo to the Twin Cities for a number of years, and then recently back and forth to daycare and around town. Pretty much mostly highway driving. So nearly 200,000 miles. I think we're at about 198,000. The suspension is starting to get a little tired. Overall, it's been pretty good. Only in the last few months have I noticed a little bit of chatter from the back end. It's kind of one of those things, if you drive the vehicle every day, you don't notice it slowly happening. But you get in it, you don't drive it every day, you're like, huh, what's that noise? What's that noise? And we figured it's time to replace them. Also, following the car a couple of weeks ago for a family vacation, I noticed back passenger tire had a little bit of a chatter in it. So we went out to RockAuto and ordered us some new struts. So I went out to RockAuto, picked up a set of Monroe quick struts. Everything is here. I do not need to worry about sending a spring into my face or across the garage. If you want to watch that, I've got a video from one of our older BMWs I'll put up here, how to use that, compress the spring, replace the whole assembly. But for now, I'm going for maximum efficiency. I've got tons of other stuff going on. If you notice we're not in the shop, there's a reason for that, coming soon. But I just want to get this done and make sure this car is back on the road, because also my daily is in the shop and it's been there for about 2 weeks with a strange knock sensor issue that they cannot clear. And if you know anything about the diesel systems in the BMWs, if you get down so many miles with those errors, it'll brick one of the modules and it's not cheap to replace. So that's on them for right now. I gave it to them a few weeks ago. I said, here's the problem. They said, yep, that's the problem. They replaced the sensors. Problem still exists. So, different topic, different day. Anyways, we're limited to daily drivers right now, and the Mustang over here really isn't good for, well, we've been having rain pretty much every day for the last 3 months. A little exaggeration, but regardless, wife's car needs to run and needs to stay running. So, we're going to go ahead, jack this thing up. We've got front and rear assemblies to replace. I'm going to start here with the front side in the passenger, just because that's the side facing us right now, and we'll get to it. All right, we are jacked up. There is a jack stand underneath for all of the non-believers. It is down there. I'm using it. Take note of that. We have all of our hardware I soaked in penetrant for a little while. These top nuts here are what, a 12 mil? Those are no problem. Those are knocking loose. We've got a 19 mil on here, and then our sway bar end link is a 17 mil. So basically, if you can see me down here, nope, I should move the camera. Basically, we've got our 3 nuts on top, 2 here for the knuckle, 1 here for the end link, and then there is a little plastic clip for our ABS sensor, and then a small, probably 10 mil for our brake line. And just before I take everything off, I'm going to grab one of the new assemblies and just make sure it is indeed the correct one. All right, here's our new assembly. It is the correct one, it appears. I've got my mount up here for our ABS sensor, and I've got my mount back here for my brake line. And yeah, everything here looks like it should. So we are going to work on getting off this old one here. Like I said, just knock these off, knock this off, and we'll come back, because after that, I'm sure we're gonna have to do some banging on the knuckle in order to get everything loosened, because, well, it's almost 10 years old, and while none of the hardware has rusted on, those all knocked loose pretty freely. I expect I'm going to run into some issues getting the actual strut itself out. So I'm going to go deal with this, and we'll come back when it's time to pull off the strut. Well, things don't always go the way you expected. everything came loose hardware-wise with the exception of the fancy little stupid piece of hardware on the sway bar end link. It's got a 5.5 mil hex head inside the threaded stud, which, of course, if you've looked at any other things online, many of those round out and strip, and now you're hosed. No amount of force to wedge it in place, heat, air tools, whatever, has gotten that loose. So for now, we've buttoned everything back up here. I've got 2 of those in my cart for RockAuto. Probably should have done that from the start. And the next step is I'm going to go try the rears and see if I can get those off and see if I face the same fate. So let's go to the back of the car and check that out. Alrighty, folks, it is a new day in the garage, not the shop. And despite my hair, yeah, the weather outside, it's humid and rainy and moist. It does funny things to my hair. We've got the back tire off here, jacked up, jack stand, and much to our enjoyment, there is only one bolt holding on down here on the lower control arm, trailing arm, whatever you want to call it. The end link, sway bar end link, goes on to the control arm itself, not the strut assembly. So that leaves us with one bolt down there to remove, and there's 2 in the back. Let me show you those. We already pulled out the little luggage cargo area cart thing. There's these 2 little trim caps that come off each side, and then down here there are 2 nuts. Those are probably going to be 12 or 13 mil. I'll double check, but we loosen those, and then we can take off the one nut down here. Hopefully you can see it. Nope, it's going to be dark. There we go. Nope, you still can't see it. Anyways, there's a nut there. And we'll loosen that, and then prying on this assembly down, maybe with some extra weight or a friend, the strut should drop out. But first, let's go ahead and get these 2 nuts loosened up here in the cargo area. These are 13s. Knocked them loose, and the whole assembly just comes loose pretty easily like this. You know, if I'd walk over 15 feet and grab my electric socket wrench, that'd be much quicker. But that'd be silly of me. With those off, we can go back to the south side of the car and see if we can get that lower nut removed. Alrighty, this down here is a 17 mil on the lower end here, so yeah, that's not going to go well, so we'll grab our breaker bar. And that comes off relatively easily. Let's see if we can spin it loose now. There we go, that knocked off of there. I did throw some penetrant on here ahead of time just to give us a sporting chance of getting everything loose, and that worked. So I'm going to put our nut back on the end here and give the bolt a little tap. You don't want to beat on just the bolt itself, the end of it, or else you're likely to bung up the threads, and then you've got a bigger problem. Okay, that's coming off pretty nice. See if I can spin it loose with this. Mostly. Here we go, almost out. This is where it's going to help to have a friend or a big pry bar or something you can lean on to finish getting this bolt out. But more importantly, you have to make enough room here for those studs up here to fall down about 3/4 of an inch. Then the assembly should come out. I'm going to move you because all you're going to see is my backside and nobody wants to see that. So
This is one of those times it'd be nice to have the shop with a lift so I can get some better angle, better movement, because this is not ideal, but you can do it. I had some help. I stood on the caliper, bounced, and my better half gave these a tug until it came loose. And now I should be able to go ahead and remove the strut the rest of the way out. Shouldn't be anything else holding it in there. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Here we go. Alrighty, well, it's not gonna work to put the compressors back on there. It just is not, it doesn't bring it down enough. So I'm gonna have to go grab my lovely assistant again and figure out how to bounce that in there. We've got our plastic wheel liner, but that is not preventing. There's actually a metal cup under here too that it sits in, so we can't just take this liner out and everything slides in. I thought that might be easy, but no. So I've got a good bit of bouncing to do to get this where it needs to be. But first, let me get this bolt back into place down here, because I guarantee you, once I get this in place, or if I try to get this in place, this is going to slide down the control arm, and it's going to be a bad time. And I'm going to close the door because apparently I'm one giant shadow again. But first things first, let me get this bolt in here. Go. Put the bolt through from the front. In the event the nut came off, the bolt will not work its way out the back. There we go. That's in place. I'm just going to spin this on now. We'll tighten it up after the fact. And now I've got to compress or move this stuff. Oh, a good 2 inches. That's going to be fun. I don't feel like dropping the other arms. That just seems like a big pain. What I could do is drop the nut off the back of the knuckle. I've done that with the BMW. Let me try that first and see if that'll help. Alrighty, this comes right off. That's going to allow this rear arm to fall down where it needs to go. Of course, that silly sway bar end link is being a pain, but that's not the worst of our worries. Now, if I can probably stand on this, if I can get some leverage, I can do it all myself. I hope. That's back where that needs to go. So let me go and double check in here. Yes, those are where they should go. Yes, the nuts in the cabin area, those are where they should go. We do get a new set in the box of goodies from Monroe. So I'm gonna go just lightly thread these on to hold them in place. I thought it might be a little nicer outside. No, it's cool, but it's just as humid, if not more. Anyways, we have our jack stand. So what I'm gonna do is take my jack and jack it up on this arm in the back to get us positioned back where we need to be, and we'll be good to go. For those of you who can't see what I'm doing, basically jacking up this lower arm to fit back in with our rear knuckle thing so I can put that bolt back in and reconnect everything. But it's tough for you to see. It's tough for me to see. So hopefully I can get everything lined up where it needs to go. And of course now with the door closed I can't see a darn thing, so I gotta get a flashlight. And we can tighten everything up. Sorry you really couldn't see much, but there's the two nuts up here, the studs inside. There's the one bolt and stud, or bolt and nut on the strut itself, and the one bolt and nut on this lower arm that came out, so I get easier access to put the new strut in. Now, going over to the driver's side, I'm just gonna take that out from the start and not have to deal with messing around with this, jumping on this, or finding a lovely assistant. So, find my Loctite, tighten these up, and we're good to go. Oh look, I've got to open it up. Of course I do. Okay, I've got my handy dandy Gerber with the scissors, and boop. Third time's a charm. Now, that's on the scissors for the next time I want to do something like, you know, cut my lunch meat. Find our 17 mil. Sorry, again, you're looking at my good side. Click. Then the 19. Back here. Was it 17 again? Oh, let's do the 17. Okay. Click. All right, run back in the cabin. We'll tighten these down. Anyways, I've got the wheel to put back on, get that torqued down to spec, 2.5 huggy-duggas, something like that. And then I gotta flip around and do the other rear strut, but you already saw the passenger side, so you don't need to see it again. And we're just waiting on those front end links from RockAuto. I ordered those yesterday. They should be here in a couple of days. For me right now, it is Friday evening. They should be here Tuesday. So hopefully Tuesday evening I can come back and get this wrapped up and done. So we're going to put a pin in this for right now, and we'll come back when those front end links are here, and we can cut the old ones off. That'll be a little bit therapeutic, I think. Anyways, we'll see you then. Alrighty, it is a new day. It's been a couple of days for me, just like that for you. We got our new end links in. They were supposed to come in today. They actually arrived on Saturday via FedEx. So kudos to RockAuto and FedEx for getting those out here ahead of schedule. Typically, if something says we're going to arrive on Saturday from FedEx, it gets here on Monday. So for things to arrive a couple of days early, that was awesome. Just haven't had the opportunity to get out here until now. Family events going on. Monday, of course, is my weekly shopping trip to the big city of Rochester for all of our supplies and food and everything else for the week. But I did go ahead and get the passenger side already replaced. That was easy peasy once I just decided to cut the old end links off. And notice when I got back up to the garage, that's got about a 1-inch height difference between the new strut and the old strut. So definitely getting these replaced will be very beneficial. I've already loosened up everything on the driver's side here, just like we had it set over on the passenger side before we ran into those issues with the nut and the stupid Allen hex key debacle. So we're just going to lower you down so you can see what we're doing down here. I've got hopefully a little better light, and hopefully there's a lot of hope going on here, right? We should be able to knock this out without too much frustration or time. Well, we've chopped off the top of my head, but that's okay because no one needs to see that. We're going to take our angle grinder, chop off this end link, make sure we don't hit our ABS sensor, and then we'll be able to move forward. Safety glasses. All right, that's that for right now. Just lopped that right off, nobody cares. The nice thing I'll show you in a minute, these new Moog end links are serviceable, so you can grease them with your routine maintenance. The original OE ones were not, so that's going to be a bonus, I think, in the longevity of things. Not that I really thought they were an issue, but Moog does make some good products. I've used them on the pickup a few times, and just been happy with their products overall. So let's go ahead and knock these out. We've got a washer on the top bolt, so make sure that goes back on. And then take the lower off. That should wiggle out without a whole lot of effort. Should be pretty much free from our steering knuckle now. There we go. Make sure we don't have a whole lot of tension on either of these. We're good. And I've already gone ahead and loosened up these nuts on top. So with a few twists with the finger, they should come off the rest of the way, or well, maybe a few more actually. All right, here's our old strut out, and I seem to have dropped my nuts. Go ahead and just toss him over here. Now, the other thing we've got to do is cut off the old end link, but we do not want to cut into our sway bar, so you've got to be mindful of that. And I'm going to just work on cutting it from the back side here. That's what I did on the passenger side, and it worked well. Again, be mindful of our ABS cable. We do not want to cut that off, or you're going to have a bad day. Even worse than cutting off my head. I got a spark in my ear. Ah. That's actually kind of annoying. Ah, there we go. That's better. This tickles. All right, my cut's going well. Keep on keeping on. Now I'm guessing I probably didn't, yep, that didn't cut that quite all the way in the right spot. So I'll have to work on that a little bit. But let me work on getting the rest of this bolt out, and then we'll come back. Alrighty, we got the old end link chunk out. A little bit of grinding and whacking and grinding, but it's out, and now we can put our new end link in. These are directional, so if you're doing both on the front side, you want to make sure they go back in the same way they come out. They are shaped a little bit differently, and thus go back on a specific driver or passenger side. So I'm going to go ahead and thread this in. And I am going to go ahead and put just a little bit of blue thread lock on this as a precaution. Who knows if There was thread lock on it originally, but I'm gonna put some on just because it's my wife's car and I wanna make sure it's safe. Little dab will do ya. Now the old nuts that came off were 19s. I think, if I recall, these are 18s. They go back on. 18 to go on the backside. They, instead of having that Allen hole in there, they've just gone ahead and thrown a squared off end on here, so we can just put a wrench over it and then use our socket or whatever to tighten it up. Of course, I've lost my socket now. There it is, 18. And my big wrench is down, or big socket is down in the shop. So I'm just gonna use the torque wrench. Spin this on. Alrighty, it's still warm out here, even at 9:15 at night. We went from 60-degree weather to monsoon, 4 inches, 5 inches, 13 inches of rain in some areas here in southern Minnesota. Flooding, catastrophe, and now we're into the humid, disgusting phase of June. Haven't even hit July yet, much less August. Anyways, we'll go ahead and set this strut up in its new home. I'm gonna drop a little bit of thread lock on those. Brake line bracket. That can get put back in here. You're in. Again, take a little bit of blue thread compound. Stop it on my threads here and grab our impact wherever that is. They're 19. Grab my torque wrench. Now our last item here is our top end of the end link. And I've got about 3/4 of an inch between where this is and the hole in the strut. So what we're going to do is grab a second floor jack, set it under the knuckle, make sure you don't catch your brake shield if that still happens to be around, and then just jack up this assembly until you're able to get that hardware in. Pretty easy. And again, just a little bit of blue goo. Click. Take our ABS sensor wire, plug that back in, and we're good to go. And that concludes that. We can go ahead and put the tire back on, and we're done. Alrighty, well that's gonna wrap this one up. Certainly a project you can do in your own home garage without any special tools. The angle grinder, I'm sure most people have one, but if not, they're 20 bucks at Harbor Freight for the corded one. Not a big deal. If it was 15 degrees cooler, I would have been a whole lot more comfortable just because I'm a big guy and I'm hot. But otherwise, parts, I think they're 350 bucks for the Monroe quick struts on all 4 corners. The Moog end links were, I think, around $60 from, again, RockAuto. So parts are relatively inexpensive. Again, the Subaru parts were very comparable in price. They just did not have the entire assembly to put on without having to do the whole McPherson strut compressor and take everything apart, put it back together. I didn't want to deal with that. So otherwise, like I said, certainly a project you can tackle for an afternoon or an evening in your own home garage without any special tools. So hope you like this video. The Subaru videos actually are probably one of the best performing series on the channel. So Thank you to those who have watched and subscribed. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment below. And don't forget, we're hiding over on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the social those trendy kids are using these days. So, till the next video, have fun whatever you're doing. Hopefully it's working on cars. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. Oh, before I go, if you're doing this for a family member or a friend, take it for a couple of mile quick test drive just to make sure there's no weird new squeaks or bounces or bumps or clunks that weren't there before. Just kind of a little added peace of mind that you've taken it for a quick run and you know that it's going to give back to somebody else. So, especially if my wife's driving the car, I'm going to go out for a quick test drive, make sure it's all set for daycare in the morning. See ya.